Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did not do as well at the Iowa caucuses as he had hoped, coming in a distant second place to former President Donald Trump. Now, honestly, it's better than losing to Nikki Haley, but still, he didn't do well. Not exactly a shocker, though. Trump has dominated the polling with consistently huge leads, but that didn't stop the DeSantis campaign from blaming the result on election interference. That's right, taking a page out of Donald Trump's book, claiming that it's election interference if you report on things. Now, that said, there could be a legitimate point here. But first, moments after several networks, including Fox News, called the Iowa race for Donald Trump, DeSantis communication director Andrew Romeo posted a response on social media. Here's what it said. Absolutely outrageous that the media would participate in election interference by calling the race before tens of thousands of Iowans even had a chance to vote. The media is in the tank for Trump, and this is the most egregious example yet. Okay, think about that. Just for a second. The media is in the tank for Trump. Really? The media, the same media that is incredibly hostile to Donald Trump? Those people are in the tank? Are you serious? Come on. Really? This sounds like some cope and seethe. Major cope. Now, look, that said, there is a legitimate point to be made that news outlets made the call prematurely, okay? Now, CNN, for example, called it 30 minutes in with 1% of votes counted and before the polls even closed. You might have at least, even though I know the thought was Donald Trump's going to run away with this. Yes. Still, you might want to wait until the polls close. I would say, 50+% of the vote counted, or at least the major, population centers that are counted, or I should say the major counties that are counted. Something, there's got to be a better way, okay? And so I would at least wait. I know, even if it's going to be a blowout, you could just hold your horses just a minute to get an accurate count. Because again, if there are people waiting in line, that could impact their decision, impact their vote, and they might give up and leave. And that's a legitimate point, okay? That said, some journalists weighed in. Washington Post national political reporter Michael Scherer criticized the AP for breaking their own policies on early reporting. AP has a policy not to call the winner of a race before all polls in a jurisdiction are scheduled to close. Tonight, AP, CNN, etc., and Fox News called the race after the caucus doors closed, but before all the votes were cast. People could see on their phones that Trump won before voting. Okay, so that's a good point. Semaphores David Weigel also weighed in, criticizing the early network call, calling the decision questionable because people are still at the caucus sites and they have phones. How many people saw the call and bailed? Hey, that's a fair, legitimate criticism. That's something to call out. That said, to call that election interference with the goal of propping up Trump over DeSantis, that's ridiculous. Again, what happened here is everybody saw the writing on the wall. They saw the polls all leading up to Iowa and were like, Donald Trump, he's going to take the bag. He's going to run away with it. Okay? All of our polling says so. All right? So this is going to be a blowout. Absolutely. And it was, despite it being, of course, one of the lowest turnouts since 2000. So keep that in mind, right? But again, Trump voters, very, very committed in turning out. And there was that assumption that his voters were going to help him win and win big. And of course, that's what happened. Now, one conservative reporter, John Hassan, who also criticized the AP, among other press outlets, said, I don't think this affected the ultimate outcome, Trump in first, but if they'll break the rules now, do you really expect them to follow the rules in the future? And again, that's fair. That's fair. And look, this didn't have any impact on this race, obviously. But there is a problem that if you end up having a close race, then yeah, that could mean the difference. Now, I think, of course, in those situations, the press is a little bit more responsible because they love hyping up that horse race aspect of it. And so They'll be like, oh, watch, it's real close in this county and this county. Oh, you better stay tuned for these results. Okay. Still, you do want to be careful. Okay. And also, it would be nice if the networks consistently followed their own rules. I think we could agree on that. All right. But that said, whining from DeSantis is just that. It's just whining. I don't think he would have had a problem with any of this, with it being called early, if he were the one that were winning. Look, he was counting on an upset win in Iowa, or at least to do better in second place than he did. He barely scratched out a win against Nikki Haley for second place. All right. So banking on it just didn't happen. Just didn't happen the way that he wanted it to. After spending all this time, money, and resources on Iowa. That's depressing. Now, that campaign official was mocked for the reaction, saying, when you reduce to claiming the media is in the tank for Trump, you might want to reassess your life choices. Another wrote, right, I'm sure if they hadn't done that, Ron would have made up the 30-point deficit. And another posted, yeah, dude, that's it. Media just loves praising Trump.